Sit back and enjoy the Mistress of Horror.
Look, I have no idea if this belongs in this sub, so please feel free to delete it if it's not. I just don't know what to think. I live in a suburb of New Orleans, Louisiana, in the United States. If you know anything about New Orleans, it's claimed to be one of the most haunted cities in the US, or that's what tour guides in the French Quarter like to tell tourists who pay $30 a head to walk and listen to a person talk about our old city. I believe in a lot of things, but I've never felt 100% certain that ghosts, matrix glitches, and the paranormal in general exist. Honestly, the story I'm about to tell you has driven me insane with questions, and I don't know if it's ghostly in nature, demonic, or something else entirely, like a glitch in the Matrix. I don't know if these were just isolated instances, or are they all linked together, as it may seem like completely unrelated, random events that just happen to happen one right after the other. Nevertheless, here it is. I'd love to get everyone's input. I'm a 25-year-old female, and I live with my fiance and my father. I recently started walking every night after everyone goes to bed, just to get some fresh air and get some exercise. I've always been an insomniac, and the walk sometimes helped. My fiance, who I'll call A, and my father don't like me going out walking the empty streets of our semi-small town alone at night. But up until the other night, I just brushed them off and told them that there hasn't been a murder here in 15 years or more, and I'm a big girl. Even though I knew I would be okay, I just felt like I needed to be prepared in case I'm put in a bad situation, especially on the weekends when people are out drunk at all hours. So to placate A and my dad, and to ensure I'd be safe, I started putting a small knife in my hoodie pocket every night, and I walked with it sheathed. If I was going into a dark area, I'd take it out and hold it ready. I'm pretty sure I was being dramatic, but whatever. I mean, you don't watch shows like Law & Order Special Victims Unit for a decade and not worry a little, but I digress. I did this for a few weeks and everything was always fine. I walked a little further every night around midnight. I loved the cool air and looking up at the moon and the stars. It was peaceful. But every time I walked, I felt like someone was watching me or following me. I tried just saying it was all in my head and that everything was normal countless times. After a month, I got used to the sounds I would hear in the dead of night. Like dogs barking in the distance, my shoes hitting the pavement, acorns and branches falling into the wooded areas next to the roads. At least I hope that's what it was. A few cars, trains, crickets, etc. I went from jumping and wielding my knife like Assassin's Creed at every sound I heard, to eventually finding it comforting. The last night I walked, a week ago, I had finished cleaning the kitchen like I always do, and laced up my sneakers, got my knife, and started walking the same way I always go. The first thing I noticed different on this night was that it was unusually dense fog, even for a coast area. After a few feet, I realized I heard nothing. No sounds whatsoever. It was dead quiet. No dogs, no cars, no crickets, no sounds. The tap of my feet was barely audible. It felt like when you get really annoyed with a game soundtrack and turn the music down to 0 and turn down the effects volume and the audio settings. Best way to explain it. It was like I was the last person alive on the earth. Have any of you ever experienced that? It's so weird. I thought to myself, shit, I need to stop using my headphones so much. I'm losing my goddamn hearing. Being a naive person, it didn't rattle me as much as it should have, but I kept walking anyway. After I got down the first street, I got about 10 feet from our 4-way stop. I hated going across it because it's the area where streetlights don't exist. The first 60 steps or so are pitch black, with only the moonlight hovering above casting a shallow glow. But I can always clearly see where the next streetlight is down the road because it's a straight line to it from the 4-way stop. As I got past the first stop sign, I was too busy looking up at the sky trying to find a star or even the moon, but I couldn't find them anywhere. It was pitch black darkness, with no overcast, just the low-lying fog that was about 5 feet off of the ground. I was bummed because it was supposed to be a full moon. I thought it was odd, but, the moon hides sometimes. After a minute or two, I finally gave up and started to walk forward. My eyes darted to the next streetlight, and I suddenly stopped in my tracks, letting out a small squeak. I squinted my eyes, not entirely sure what I was looking at. The streetlight was right at the corner of a curve to where I can't see after the light. My brain first told me it's a very large dog, and it made my heart race out of control. I had not seen any dogs around here previously, and I thought it might be a stray. I seriously had every way a dog could attack me, shred me, and kill me running through my head, trying to figure out if I should flee or not. After a moment of hesitation, I realized that the huge dog wasn't moving at all. Literally, it just looked like a statue. No movement whatsoever. None. No head movements. No walking. No barking. Nothing. It was so weird and creepy. I watched it for over a minute, entranced by this creature's behavior, just waiting to see if it was going to run at me or walk off uninterested, but it didn't do anything. I could see it was all black, and I didn't see any eyes. But, to be fair, I was quite a bit away from it. As I was about to start slowly backing up, my eyes became aware of something coming up behind the statue dog, or creature, whatever it was. I didn't blink as I watched this dark mass start to creep into the light of the street lamp, engulfing it inch by inch. It wasn't a car, not a person, as I would have seen them causing the light to disappear. It was just a huge black nothingness. I couldn't understand or identify what I was seeing as the dark started surrounding the creature who still hadn't moved a muscle. It was like, when your computer freezes or when it's slowly dimming about to go into rest mode. At this point, I had adrenaline pumping into my body from the fight or flight response. My body was telling me that my life was on the line, and every second I stood there, I felt like I was in more and more danger. I felt terrified and sick. The hairs on my arms were standing up and I was beginning to sweat in 50-degree weather. But little by little, its body was being eaten by the darkness. I walked faster and faster, trying not to panic and run, as I have bad knees, and it would hurt tremendously if I tried. As I was fast walking, I got to a house that I always pass every night. No lights on anywhere inside or outside the house, which was strange as well because the man that lived there worked from home during the nighttime hours. I'd sometimes see him out on the porch at night, and I'd wave. All of a sudden, I heard a huge crashing sound in their open dark garage. I couldn't see what it was or what caused it. It sounded like plates breaking or things falling off of a shelf onto concrete. Needless to say, I didn't stick around to look for the source. As I passed the next house a minute later, I heard another crashing sound, and I had no idea where it originated from. I only knew it came from the direction of the dark house I was passing. Again, not a light on anywhere inside or outside. I'm Olympic speed walking at this point, breathing hard, heart racing. My hand had a death grip on the knife in my pocket, ready to use it if I needed. On what? I didn't know. I didn't want to know. I was terrified, and I still had 2 more houses to go before I got to mine. I looked back again, and I could no longer see down the road to see if the creature was still there. The next thing I noticed was I couldn't see any street lamps anymore. Just a black void where I had seen lights only a few minutes before when I first started walking down to the 4-way stop. That freaked me out enough to begin running, no matter how much pain I felt. I felt like I was being chased or stalked by something that wanted to do me harm. I finally passed the next house, and another loud banging or crashing sound came from their pitch black garage. I'm fighting tears from terror and pain, just thinking if I could get to my house it would be okay. Like it was my save point. Sorry for all of the video game analogies, but it's the best way to describe it. The loud crashing noises were amplified 10 times because the world was still eerily silent. It was like I was in a soundproof room or a negative space. I looked behind me one more time, and I could no longer see anything behind me. No houses, no lights, no roads, just darkness. I passed the last house, and as I did, I prayed that there would be no more crashing sounds. But instead of a loud noise, Their motion sensor lights blasted the road and it made me stumble backwards. After a few disorienting seconds, I prepared to start speed walking again, not wanting the creeping void to swallow me too. With my first step, I heard a crunching sound under my foot. I looked down and it looked like I had stepped on a small blue plastic child's watch. For some reason, I reached down and I picked it up. I forgot all about everything I was running from moments ago as I examined the thing I had stepped on. I realized it was one of those cheap kids game toys where you have to move the watch around to get a little metal pellet into the little holes. I remember being confused as to why this was in the middle of the road where no kids live. I flipped it over, and as I started to walk again, almost to my house, I nearly dropped the thing when I saw on the back of it, "Hi." Just, "Hi," written in black marker. I'll include a picture in this post. I was so confused and I didn't know why it was here or what the fuck the purpose of this greeting on this toy was. I wanted to throw it as far into the woods as I could, but for some reason I held on to it until I got to my house. When I walked in the door, I remembered what I was so panicked about not 10 minutes ago, and I raced around locking all of the doors and closed all of the curtains. I peeked outside and I was so relieved to be able to see all of the streetlights, roads, and houses again. No more darkness. No huge dog creature thing. Just normal. I even smiled in relief when I heard a train blaring its obnoxious horn in the distance. I took out my knife and put it away. Then I took the little blue watch and I put it on the counter to show my fiancé the next day. After I washed my hands, I sat down on the couch and unlocked my iPad. Immediately, my eyes popped almost out of my sockets. The clock said 4:12 a.m. I shoved the iPad away and unlocked my phone. It said the same thing, as did all of the clocks in my house. This was impossible to me. I started my walk a few minutes after midnight, and I had only been out there about 30 minutes, at the most. Again, I was terrified and so confused. I had been out there for 4 hours when it only felt like 30. I decided to go to bed and try and figure out what the fuck happened the next day. I never did tell my fiancé, dad, or anyone about the watch or what occurred that night, especially the time warp. I thought I was crazy. I'm still not sure what happened that night, but needless to say, I have postponed my nightly walks for the time being. After I started reading glitch stories, I thought I would share this and see what others might think. I don't know if it's a Matrix glitch, or maybe I was being sucked into a portal, or it's just normal and there's nothing paranormal about it. I don't know. But the world is a weird place, and I'm discovering that every day.